Hey everyone, Heron here. Yeah, this truck that I built with the auto shop got a lot of attention, so I wanted to explain a little bit more about it. One of the questions I got was how I set up the front suspension. So this is a 75 International 200 1-ton. They also had 200 3/4 tons. In the 74 and 75 on the two-wheel drive pickups, they made a lot of changes for those 2 years. Prior to that was the 69 to 73 trucks, which the two-wheel drive and the four-wheel drives used the same frame. Going into 74 to 75, the two-wheel drive pickups use a different frame. One of the main differences when you're doing the suspensions on these is on the 4x4 trucks, the leaf springs were bolted right here. The shackle hangers were bolted here, and then right here was another set of holes identical to those that was right here, and I could show you that on a different truck. But on the two-wheel drive trucks like this, there was a larger hole here which had some kind of, I forget what it was, but on the coil spring independent front suspension, it had something that was bolted there, like a torsion bar or something. I removed all that stuff and then bolted in these leaf springs, and I used, in the front, I used this WFO spring hanger, which is a 4-inch drop. You can see it right here. And then in the rear, I made these custom shackle hangers here that went through the large hole where the torsion arm was. And then I made these custom shackle hangers, which I can show you on the other side what they look like. So here you can see these shackle hangers that I made. And then I had to offset the shackles right here. So this is one of my other international pickups, and you can see the frame. This was where the original 4x4 shackle hanger was mounted, and then I unbolted that and bolted it into the rear set of holes, which are identical to these set of holes. Like 73 and older pickups had the frame that had the two set of holes just like this, and then in 74 and 75 they switched some of the trucks to a different style frame, like my 75. But on the four-wheel drive 74 and 75 trucks, they used holes just like this. So if you have a 74 or 75 200 pickup and it came from the factory with four-wheel drive, then it would have the holes like I showed you on my other truck, where it had two sets of these holes here. Now, on the two-wheel drive trucks, they only had one set of holes here, and then a different larger hole here for the torsion arm. I'm not sure if it's called a torsion arm, but that's what I was calling it. So if you have the four-wheel drive truck with the two sets of holes here, you can move the shackle hanger from the front set to the rear set of holes, and then you can bolt in Chevy springs from the 73 to 87 Chevy four-wheel drive front springs would bolt in here. Now, since this was the two-wheel drive truck and it didn't have the two sets of holes, I had to modify this and make a custom shackle hanger, and I used rear springs from a 74 Travelall parts truck that I had, and the rear springs on the Travelalls are 52 inches long. So this is a 52-inch long leaf spring, which gives extra flex and a really, soft ride. So with this setup that I did on this 75, that was two-wheel drive, and I made these custom shackle hangers, and I used this WFO hanger in the front. It moved the axle forward about an inch, I think, which allowed me to clear these 37-inch tires, and it lifted the front about 5 inches. It drives pretty good, but I think it would benefit from a sway bar. And then we used these Super Duty shock towers, which are bolted to some 2x3 square tubing, 1/4 inch wall. And then we welded a plate to the bottom of that for the bump stop. Also on the 74 and 75 two-wheel drive trucks, they used crossover steering, which I'm a big fan of. So I replaced the steering box, although this is identical to the steering box that came with the truck from the factory. I ordered one for a 74 Chevy Suburban two-wheel drive. I did the crossover steering with 1-ton tie rod and drag link ends. I think it's vastly superior to the push-pull type of steering that was common on the 4x4 trucks. And for the rear axle, I lifted it with blocks and really long U-bolts, and then we used the stock shock mounts and put these nice Bilstein shocks on. And we did rear disc brakes. On one forum I was on, I posted a picture of this setup and somebody commented, "Those are huge blocks and that's axle wrap city." I haven't encountered any axle wrap. I don't heavily off-road this thing. I've only actually put about 15 miles on it so far since it's back on the road. I don't think axle wrap is a problem. These are 5-inch blocks. They're not that huge. They look huge, but it's pretty common to use lift blocks in the rear. Having the shocks on the alternate sides of the axle, like on the left side it's on the rear of the axle sliding back, on the right side it's on the front of the axle sliding forward. The reason for the offset shocks is to prevent axle wrap. I really don't think axle wrap is an issue.